Welcome to the News Agenda for Wednesday, March 17th, 2021. It's St. Patrick's Day. It's also Doctor-Patient Trust Day. So remember that as your doctor gives you the rote advice the insurance company requires them to give you every time you show up. Our first story is in Atlanta, where 8 people were killed, 7 were women and 6 of Asian descent. The suspect was captured alive, and the police expected to get Burger King for the suspect on the way to the jail, but the guy preferred Wendy's. Police say that they cannot say what the motives were, but the suspect claimed sex addiction, starting the whole ball rolling on a shockingly fast rehabilitation of the suspect's reputation. The Daily Beast already reported that the guy was quote-unquote innocent seeming and wouldn't even cuss. He was sort of nerdy and didn't seem violent. Even more impressive, his swear words don't kill people like this guy did. And to top it off, these women were most likely sex workers. So there's a whole pile of intersections here between women, Asian people, and sex workers that might have something to do with this. Unfortunately, things are not that easy as just claiming sex addiction. Or, as the cops said, the killer was just also having a really bad day. New York Times reports that Asian Americans were targeted in 3,800 hate incidents last year. But the cause of such xenophobic violence is unknown. I mean, it could be nothing. It might, but you never know. It could be the long history of anti-Asian violence, from the exploitation of Chinese workers to create railroads and the internment of Japanese Americans in World War II, to the absolute over-the-top horror at Japanese economic dominance in the 80s too. Well, our former president. Anyway, speaking of presidents, let's move on to the current one. President Joe Biden has thrown his support to end the filibuster as we currently know it. The famous images of the long speech into the night as an exhausted senator is excoriating his fellow senators to just do the right thing are a thing of the past, but they may return under new rules that would require actual effort on the behalf of the minority party instead of just putting in a theoretical objection. I, for one, welcome the sight of Mitch McConnell speaking long to the night about the importance about taking away voting rights. That would be perfect. Now, Joe Manchin, of course, has probably doomed this whole thing in the name of minority rights. I guess elections don't have consequences after all. And speaking of taking away rights, trans people, I'm going to take a bit of diversion for a second. I didn't watch the hearings in Congress about people like me. I suppose I should say that, not that I don't care, but I don't find those things useful. Especially useful to engage here. This is supposed to be fun for me. I want to produce this and do a variety of topics that have nothing to do with who I am. Obviously, I want to write more than just about the trans experience. As the News Agenda, I'm not going to say I won't talk about trans stuff. Of course I have. Just today was a bad day for that, because the hearings and the transphobic shitheads having another platform to deliver their hateful message to our leaders was very disheartening. And then some of those leaders, then, I'm sure, eviscerating the 16-year-old trans girl that is also testifying. That included Senator Kennedy talking about a middle school girl's genitals. Yeah, that did. So it's the same old shit. It's enough to make someone have a real bad day. Wait, did someone say have a bad day? I'll be right back. Now that that's done, someone else that has had a really bad year was Dr. Deborah Birx, most famously known as someone who said nothing. Quite a feat in this age of reality TV stars and wannabe internet stars vying for our attention. Dr. Birx brought attention by saying nothing in a brilliant exchange with former President Trump. Let's take a look at her most famous moment.
We hit the body with a tremendous, whether it's ultraviolet or just very powerful light. And I think you said that hasn't been checked, but you're going to test it. And then I said, supposing you brought the light inside the body, which you can do, either through the skin or in some other way. And I think you said you're going to test that too. Sounds interesting. Right, and then I see the disinfectant, where it knocks it out in a minute, 1 minute. And is there a way we can do something like that by injection inside, or almost a cleaning? Because you see it gets on the lungs and it does a tremendous number in the lungs. So it'd be interesting to check that. So that you're going to have to use medical doctors with. But it sounds interesting to me.
That's a whole hardcore bit of doing nothing. Slackers all over the country erupted with a tremendous meh. She's been taking something of a rehabilitation tour lately, saying she felt bad and she still thinks about the incident every day. So do we, Deborah. So do we. Speaking of things to remember, California is heading for another recall election, if you remember the last one. Governor Gavin Newsom said that he is worried about it because, well, it's a worrying thing, which confirms everyone's suspicion that the governor just wants power. Of course, that's all governors. No word from Arnold if the former governor is looking to come out of retirement in the political arena. In stuffing things down the memory hole news, Dead Sea Scroll fragments were found in a desert cave, along with a basket that is about 10,500 years old. The fragments of the scrolls are, of course, minuscule, but among them were found absolutely no mention of gay people. Also, the scroll has a letter to you about trying to reach you about your car's extended warranty. Also in unnaturally old things, Prince Philip returned to his home where he validated the age of the Dead Sea Scrolls and asked for his basket back. And speaking of old documents with a long history, blockchain! NFTs are big news. Nudes? I wonder if you probably make those big news. NFTs are non-fungible tokens, which means very little unless you understand how a blockchain and cryptocurrency work, and if you do, which I do, little, they still make very little to no sense. Most frequently, the purchase of digital media ends up on the blockchain as a reference to a file on some other server, not on the blockchain itself. So if the server goes bye-bye, so does your $65 million NFT sold by Beeple. Who the fuck gives Beeple $65 million? You should probably not have that much money if you're just going to do that to a site named Beeple. Without giving too much away, that's it. Degraded and cropped for fair use, but it's right there. And even better, anyone can get it. Speaking of cropped and degraded, I got my COVID vaccine yesterday, and I'm feeling it today for sure. So I'm going to call it, that's the news at Jen for Wednesday, whatever fucking day this is. I'm going to be occasionally working diligently on the publication of The Smallest of Problems, my new book from... So occasionally, as I work on edits and revisions, I might have to slow down a little. My hope is not to be gone more than a week, but I just want to give you a heads up. We're not scheduled to get into that for a couple weeks or months. I'll let you know as we get closer. Thank you to everyone who likes and subscribes and supports me on Patreon. You're all what help me keep the lights on, sometimes quite literally. I hope you all have a great evening. Please remember to like and subscribe if you haven't. And please remember, I love you. I did the whole walkout thing because I watched it, Philosophy Tube, and apparently she did that, so is that a thing? Is that a left tube thing? Why do people just walk out very slowly? I don't get it.